What's up, YouTube? Hey, I just got done waxing my first chain using the Silca hot wax melting system, and I just wanted to share some thoughts, especially since they are things that I learned having never done it before, only using what was available on YouTube and Grok to try to figure out some of the unanswered questions. So, forgive my messy garage as well. This is a real video, not one of them fancy, workshop ones. So anyway, first of all, this thing, so I used the Secret Chain Wax, and it's just what it is. I couldn't really ever find anything that said directly how much to use. If you look in the actual manual that comes with this, it says to leave 20 milliliters of volume left. I don't even know how the heck you would know that, given that this doesn't actually have anything that like gradiates it. There's no measurement at all. So I did find that it says to use 300 grams of this stuff. And that's what I ended up doing. I just have like a little scale that I used to, I honestly just put a coffee filter on it since I was going to be using one for what I'll talk about later. But I just put a coffee filter, I measured out 100 grams, dumped it into the pot, and then I did that 3 times. I was gonna try to do 250, given that this bag is 500 grams. I don't quite understand why they don't just send it with 600 grams so that you can get like 2 full pots out of it. Maybe it's just because you'll get 50 to 60 chains apparently out of this alone, which is fantastic, right? But would have been more fantastic to just add 100 grams, and then we would have had 120 chains out of this bag. So anyway, yeah, just do 300 grams if you can't measure it out. When I first put the wax pellets in there, it was like almost filled to the top, and I was worried that that was too much. But as it melts down and all of that interstitial air between the pellets goes away, then it ends up being about this volume here. So it was enough to completely submerge my 12-speed SRAM Force E1 chain, no problem. That is one thing I would say though, is I did this suggested number of loops. I wish I had taken a video of it before, but I thread it through on the wire here, and I did about 8 loops. Actually, what I did was I took the chain, I folded it in half twice, and that ended up working pretty well. What I did do was I ended up using this screwdriver, and the tip of it I dipped in the wax, and I've already tried to chip the wax off, but it just, because it was cold, it instantly congealed on the end of it. And so anyway, I would use something that you could honestly probably use your finger. It's not like that hot, but it's, yeah, use something that cleans up easier than the tip of a Phillips screwdriver. So the other thing that I did was, so my chain, I had honestly about 250 miles on it, and I couldn't find anything that said not like, so I mean it's obviously not a brand new chain, but I had never applied any other lubricants or any other solvents or anything to it. It literally still had the factory wax on it. So what I ended up doing was I have this ball jar. I was fortunate to find this in my cupboard. It's a little bit more stout and wide, but what that allowed me to do was use less of the chain stripper. And so I didn't obviously use a strip chip because my chain was already dirty and I knew that would contaminate the wax. So I put it through once in this jar, and it was about that color. It was filthy. And when I took the chain out, rinsed it with water twice, it still had a significant amount of crud on it. And so I ended up taking a microfiber towel, and I ran the chain through it a few times, trying to dry it and get additional stuff off. The towel itself was filthy, so I went ahead and ran it another time using this chain stripper again, and that ended up getting it pretty clean. I still had to give it some work on each roller with the microfiber towel, but the thing that, well, before I put it in here, it wasn't 100% dry, which it doesn't have to be, but I did make sure that it was as dry as it could be and that I had no visible residue. So then I put it in here, let it do its thing for the 10-15 minutes, agitating it as it says. I didn't see a ton of bubbles come out of mine. There were bubbles, but it wasn't like what I thought it would be. I thought it was going to be like, kind of not boiling, because this obviously isn't boiling temperature, but like I thought I'd see more bubbles coming off. So that's something to be aware of. The other thing that I wanted to say is that this is my second coffee filter that I have run this stuff through. So I first put this funnel with a coffee filter directly into the bottle, and you can see how dirty that obviously is. I know that's because I had used it on a chain that had about 350 miles or so on it, with factory wax and obviously road grit and other things like that. So that probably wasn't the wisest thing to have dumped that directly into here. It's fine. I'm sure this stuff will still work, but because of everything that's in it, man, it just clogged that first filter. So I ended up having to delicately transfer between these jars, and now this is the second one. You can see it's still basically at a standstill. So I'll probably have to at some point actually go in and try again. I'm gonna let this sit overnight and see if it will drain. I'm in no rush, but with as expensive as this stuff is, I want to get every drop back that I can so that I can reuse it on the next chain. So yeah, the other thing that I didn't realize is after you let this hang dry, well, not dry, but cool and set up on the chain, it is going to be very, very stiff. So much so that like it was difficult to get some of the rollers to even, articulate with each other. And so for that reason, I would say, yeah, like you obviously want it to set for the 15 minutes, but in some ways next time what I might do is take it off of this sooner so that because what I did too, and this would be some advice I'd give you, is don't let the ends of the chain hang down, because what happened was all the wax went through the holes for where you're gonna put your master link in between. And so, it wasn't the end of the world, but it just had a lot, like it had a drop of wax that was caked. That's what these little bits are that I broke off. And then I just took the master link and pushed it through the hole that was filled with wax. And that did, again, a good job. It got like little piece out on each hole, but it was probably more work than it needed to be had I made sure that the ends of the chain were threaded through up here and that the wax like had come down and not set up in the very ends of those. So yeah, I think overall it was a pretty smooth experience. I can't remember if I said this already, but one thing that I was also surprised about was that to melt the 300 grams of the Secret Chain Wax at 75 degrees, it took way longer than I thought. I'd say about 45 minutes. I didn't actually time it. That was just kind of, I started and did a few things, cleaned the chain, and then came back to this, and it still had not fully melted, which is, I was really surprised. I don't know why in my mind I thought that it took like 20 minutes. And it might if you put it on a higher setting, like a higher temperature setting, but then also you're going to have to wait for it to come back down to the 75 degrees. So it has its trade-offs. I did see that you could set it at like 85 or 95 degrees Celsius and then let it, kind of coast back down to the 75. That way it melts quicker. But no matter how you slice it, the way I see it is you're going to be waiting. So I wish I had known that ahead of time, because then I would have just done this very first thing, which I did, but I would just let it sit for a minute, go do something else, come back to it, and then, have my chain all prepped. I do plan to get a new chain and actually try the strip chip with it. So that will be interesting to start at 125 with it already melted. So you can see this is still pretty soft. I have let this sit here for, I don't know, it's probably been sitting for 30 minutes now, so it's taken quite a while to cool, which is fine. My plan is to just kind of leave the lid on this and leave it on my workshop bench here. So anyway, the little things that I couldn't find online, all the videos I watched from Silca or other, you know, these GCN or pro channels and stuff, they didn't really talk about any of this. And then also I couldn't really find anything that didn't have the strip chip involved. So and then also I couldn't find much that talked about using, you know, a lightly used chain. I did watch one video where Josh, the Silca guy, said that you could do it with, like, you know, maybe a few 100 miles and nothing else on it in terms of other detergents or solvents or oils or greases, anything like that. And so that's why I went for it with my chain, because brand new bike, brand new chain. And it appears to have worked. I mean, I am suspicious that it will probably not be the, you know, perfect outcome, but I'm willing to still do what I can to increase the longevity of the chain, and most especially the cassette and chain rings, because, you know, those are the big, really expensive components. A $70 chain, I don't want to spend my money on that if I don't have to, but much less expensive than the other things. So anyway, hopefully this video was helpful. I know that it's pretty down and dirty, not a super professional video, but hopefully you get something from it.